They taught you that being available is a virtue, that being kind, attentive, present, always ready, was the secret to making yourself loved. But no one told you that in the real world, excessive availability destroys attraction. Not because kindness isn't appreciated, but because the man who offers himself too much loses his mystery, and with that mystery, he loses his power. We're not talking about malice, we're talking about energy, about that subtle balance that separates the good man from the weak one. And the difference isn't moral, it's perceptual. Because in female psychology, a man who's too available doesn't communicate love, he communicates a lack of boundaries. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul is lost when it disperses itself in everything around it." And that's exactly what happens to the man who always says yes, who gives in, who adapts, who responds immediately, who forgets himself so as not to anger, so as not to lose, so as not to please. At first she appreciates him. She finds him sweet, thoughtful, reassuring. But then slowly, something inside her changes. She can't explain why, but her respect fades. She perceives you as predictable, as a man who no longer feels tension. And tension, in the invisible language between man and woman, is everything. When you're too available, a woman stops feeling your masculine polarity. Because masculine energy is direction, not complacency. It's presence, not eagerness to please. It's calm, not reaction. Epictetus would say, "He who tries to please everyone ends up being worthy of no one." A man who's too available becomes a shadow, a gentle figure but without substance, always present but never powerful, always accommodating but never inspiring. And when a woman stops feeling inspired, she begins to test you, to push, to see how far she can go. She doesn't do it out of malice. She does it by nature. She wants to see if there's still a limit within you, a backbone, a direction. But if you're too available, you give in again. Respond with sweetness, with fear, with insecurity disguised as kindness. And every time you give in, your value goes down, even if you're doing the right thing. Respect isn't born from the amount of attention, but from the quality of your presence. Not from the time you dedicate, but from the weight you carry when you're there. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "He who wants to be loved for his goodness must first be firm in his strength. Being good without strength is like having a sword without a blade. It doesn't cut, it doesn't protect, it doesn't command respect. It's merely decorative." A woman feels all this on a visceral level. She doesn't analyze, she perceives. She senses whether behind your sweetness there's calm or fear, whether behind your availability there's balance or need. And fear, insecurity, need. These are perfumes that extinguish desire in an instant. You mustn't become cold. You must become selective. The Stoic is present, but never available at random. He loves deeply, but chooses to whom and when he gives his energy. He doesn't give away attention. He gives it, and only to those who deserve it. Epictetus would say, "Do not give what is sacred to those who do not understand its value." When you are always available, you do not communicate value. You communicate a lack of priorities, as if everything had the same weight, as if your attention were infinite, as if your time were worthless. But a man's attention is his most precious currency, and he who spends it badly becomes disrespectful. A woman does not want a servant. She wants a king who chooses, a man who knows how to say no, who knows how to set boundaries, who is not afraid of silence. Because silence, when chosen, is power. It is proof that you do not bow to the need for acceptance. It is proof that your presence is not a coin to be exchanged, but a gift to be earned. A man who is too available confuses giving with losing. He empties himself believing he is nourishing. But the Stoic knows that love, to be healthy, needs space, and space is born from limits. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Love with moderation, because even good without moderation becomes evil." Being always available is not love. It is the fear of not being loved. And fear, even when it is hidden under a smile, is felt. It suffocates. It tires. The Stoic is not afraid of disappointing, because he knows that it is not his job to please everyone. His job is to be whole, and those who understand this respect it. Those who don't understand this distance themselves, but they will do so anyway, even if you were perfect, because love without respect is unstable, and respect comes only from those who have learned not to sell themselves short. So, the first step to stop being too available is not becoming cold or detached. It is returning to centeredness, rediscovering the calm that allows you to choose, not react, rediscovering the dignity to say no without fear, rediscovering the strength not to chase those who ignore you. Epictetus would say, "He who knows how to restrain himself owns the world." When you learn this, when you understand that your availability is only valid if it is chosen, not granted, something in you changes forever. Your energy becomes more compact, your voice becomes calmer, your silence more eloquent. And respect, real respect, not the kind demanded, returns to orbit around you, not because you have become tougher, but because you have become whole again. Being kind is not a flaw, but when kindness loses its balance, it becomes a mask, a form of fear disguised as a virtue. Many men don't realize this. They think they are good. They think that being always available, accommodating, and understanding is a sign of moral strength. But in reality, they are simply trying to avoid conflict. Their kindness doesn't come from peace. It comes from the fear of losing approval. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "He who fears the judgment of others has already lost control of his own soul." This is the problem of the overly kind man. He no longer acts on principle, but to avoid discomfort. He no longer speaks with sincerity, but with calculated prudence. He doesn't say no. He says, "Let's see." He doesn't lead, he follows. He doesn't choose, he adapts. And so, slowly, he loses the respect of those around him. Because kindness that isn't rooted in strength doesn't inspire gratitude. It breeds disinterest. A woman senses this immediately, not because she's bad, but because her feminine nature seeks guidance, not reflection. She wants someone who conveys solidity, not someone who follows her every wavering. When your kindness becomes complacency, you're no longer a man. You're a satellite. You circle around her, hoping she won't extinguish you, but sooner or later she will, because your light doesn't come from within. Epictetus would say, "He who seeks to be everything to others ceases to be anything to himself." True kindness is a form of power, but only when it's chosen, not when it's automatic. Only when it's accompanied by boundaries, not fear. Only when it arises from self-respect, not the need to please. The weak man uses kindness to hide his lack of direction. The strong man uses it as an instrument of harmony, because he knows he can be firm and compassionate at the same time. He knows that spineless gentleness is only weakness in disguise. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be firm as a rock, but gentle as the water that caresses it." Being too kind means trying to avoid tension, but it is precisely in tension that respect is born. When you don't impose, but don't give in either. When you are able to say, "No, I stop here." When you don't justify yourself by your own standards. Many men, however, believe that being good means never hurting anyone. And so they hurt themselves. They deny themselves, repress themselves, humiliate themselves, all in the name of peace. But that isn't peace, it's fear of judgment. And fear, even when disguised as politeness, has a smell you can't hide. Women sense it, and when they sense it, they no longer trust. Not because they want a rude man, but because they need to know that if the world scares them, he won't bend. They need to feel that your gentleness isn't fragility, but choice. Epictetus would say, "It's not kindness that makes a man wise, but the ability to use it with moderation." Being too kind is being out of proportion. It's giving when it's not asked for. It's apologizing when there's no fault to be found. It's asking permission to exist. And no one respects those who ask permission to exist. The Stoic doesn't ask permission. He doesn't impose, but occupies his space. He speaks calmly, acts with intention, and lets his consistency speak for him. He doesn't let himself be trampled on to appear noble. He doesn't confuse sacrifice with valor. He doesn't measure his goodness by the gratitude of others. Marcus Aurelius said, "Act well, and if you are not thanked, know that the action is your reward." This is the Stoic principle. Do good because it is right, not because someone recognizes it. Be kind because it is in your nature, not because you want to be loved. But the line is thin, because if you are not aware, your kindness becomes a way to buy affection, and bought love is worthless. A woman doesn't want a man who begs her with sweetness. She wants a man who looks at her calmly and says, "I respect you, but I will not change myself to please you." That sentence contains all the strength in the world because it communicates the most powerful truth. I am enough for myself. And kindness, in that moment, becomes magnetic because it no longer arises from need, but from superabundance. It is not an attempt to convince. It is a natural act of someone who is not afraid of losing. Epictetus said it clearly. A gift loses value when it is given out of fear. Being kind out of fear is servility. Being kind with courage is greatness. Respect comes only from the second form, because kindness without strength is not a virtue, it's strategy. And strategies don't generate attraction, only exhaustion. When a woman senses that your sweetness is sincere but selective, she respects you. When she senses it's automatic and unconditional, she distances herself, because female love feeds on polarity. And the man who abandons his boundaries kills the tension that keeps desire alive. Kindness must be a gift, not a dependency. A choice, not a reflex. A gesture of power, not fear. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Virtue needs no witnesses. It is sufficient unto itself." This is how you recognize when your kindness is virtue and not weakness. If you take it away, you feel guilty. That's weakness. If you give it and remain calm, even if it's not reciprocated, that's virtue. The difference is in inner peace. When you are truly kind by choice, you don't care how it's perceived, because you're no longer trying to please. You're simply expressing yourself in the most balanced way possible. And from that moment on, kindness stops making you lose value. It becomes the highest sign of your strength. A man who is too available pays a very high yet invisible price. He doesn't lose something immediate. He isn't insulted. He isn't accused. In fact, sometimes he's even thanked. But beneath that polite gratitude, something slowly fades. Respect. And respect, once lost, doesn't come back easily, because it isn't rebuilt with apologies, but with absence. Not with words, but with boundaries. Not with more tenderness, but with more distance. When a woman senses that you're always available, her deepest instinct stops seeing you as a solid, masculine presence and begins to see you as an accessible resource. You're no longer a choice, you're a habit. You're no longer a mystery, you're certainty. And certainty in the emotional realm doesn't ignite, it extinguishes. Epictetus wrote, "What is always within reach loses its value." A man who is always available becomes predictable. He responds immediately. He's always there. He forgives everything. He always understands. He never rebels. And so the woman stops respecting him, not because she doesn't value him as a person, but because she no longer perceives him as a man with power. In the silent language of relationships, the man who knows how to say no exudes confidence, while the one who always says yes exudes insecurity disguised as kindness. And insecurity is like an invisible chink in the armor. At first it goes unnoticed, but over time it destroys everything. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The man who cannot deny will never be able to command even himself." Excessive unavailability is a slow poison, because it stems from a noble need, love, empathy, the desire to give. But it transforms into psychological submission. Every time you give up your boundaries for fear of losing her, you're telling yourself, "My value depends on how she looks at me." And so, without realizing it, you stop being yourself. You censor yourself. You modify yourself. You deny yourself. You no longer speak truthfully, but with calculation. You no longer respond calmly, but anxiously. Your every action becomes a strategy to avoid rejection. But a man who lives to avoid rejection has already lost his freedom. Epictetus would say, don't try to avoid pain. Try to avoid dependence. And excessive availability is a form of dependence, not on pleasure, but on the need for approval, on the need to feel good, on the need to feel indispensable. The problem is that the more you try to be indispensable, the more invisible you become, because women don't respect those who live to serve them, but those who live with a purpose greater than themselves. A man who has a direction, a mission, an internal order. Constant availability strips you of that aura of personal priority. You begin to revolve around her. Every decision passes through her filter. Every gesture is a proof of love. Every silence is the fear of disappointing her. And so you empty yourself. You dissolve slowly, like water losing its shape. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "He who gives up his form to adapt loses his substance." When a woman feels that you are adapting to her instead of leading, she is no longer attracted. Because attraction comes from direction, not from adaptation. It comes from seeing in you a man who can keep up with her, not someone who fears losing her. The excessively available man is never free. Even when he smiles, he lives in anxiety. Even when he gives, he is afraid. Even when he says it's okay, inside he feels that something is completely wrong. But he continues, because he believes that one day he will be rewarded for his perseverance, for his patience, for his being different from others. But it doesn't happen, because there is no respect where there is no tension. The absence of boundaries is not love. It is a lack of self-esteem. Epictetus would say, the man who does not impose limits will always be limited by others. The woman, even if she doesn't admit it, seeks the limit. She seeks the man who can say, enough. She seeks someone who contains her, who makes her feel the solidity that, emotionally, she doesn't always have. Not to dominate her, but to give her security. And security doesn't come from control. It comes from self-control. When you are too available, you communicate that you have no center, that you have no life beyond her, that you are incapable of being alone. And those who cannot be alone cannot be respected. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The complete man is self-sufficient, not out of pride, but out of order." Being self-sufficient doesn't mean isolating yourself. It means knowing that your value doesn't change if someone ignores you, that your calm doesn't depend on the message you receive, that your happiness is non-negotiable. The man who gives everything loses everything, because in giving without measure, he kills the desire that kept him alive. The invisible price of excessive availability is the loss of charisma. And charisma isn't superficial charm. It's vital tension. It's that subtle sensation you convey when you don't bend, when you maintain your pace, when you don't respond immediately, when you don't justify yourself, when you don't ask for explanations. A woman, faced with that energy, feels two opposites: security and challenge. That's exactly what keeps her attracted. The Stoic knows it's not about ignoring or manipulating, but about remaining present within yourself. Epictetus would say, no one can take your strength away from you unless you give it to them. Every time you make yourself too available, you are giving away your strength. Every time you respond out of fear, you are losing authority. Every time you apologize for being yourself, you are giving up your identity. Respect doesn't come from how much you give, but from how much you keep. Maintain your time, your space, your calm, your independence. Because in the end, the truth is simple. The man who can't always be found is the one who is always sought. Since you were a child, they told you, be good, be kind, treat others well. Women love good men. And you believed it. You built your entire identity around that word, good. You learned to avoid conflict, to smile even when you were disrespected, to remain silent so as not to appear aggressive. You believed that being good was the path to being loved. But over time, you've discovered a burning truth. Being good isn't enough. In fact, it's often precisely what makes you invisible. Not because goodness is wrong, but because when it's not accompanied by strength, it becomes fragility. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "He who wants to be virtuous must also be strong." Virtue without strength is like a house without foundations. It may seem beautiful from the outside, but the first wind knocks it down. The good man, in the common sense, is a man trained to please. He's not truly compassionate. He's conditioned to validation. He's learned that always saying yes will save him from problems. That pleasing will make him acceptable. That being accommodating will earn him love. But that's not the case, because the world doesn't respect those who sacrifice their truth for pleasure. It uses them. Epictetus would say, "He who renounces his opinion for convenience renounces his soul for fear." The good man doesn't dare. He doesn't say what he thinks. He doesn't set boundaries. He apologizes even when it's unnecessary. He asks permission to feel desire. And in the end, she convinces herself that women don't want good men. But that's not true. Women don't want weak men disguised as good. The difference is enormous. Women admire the kindness that comes from security, not the kind that comes from need. The truly good man knows how to say no. He knows how to stand firm. He knows how to disappoint, if necessary, because his kindness is a choice, not a fear. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be kind, but don't give up what makes you whole." Yet, the myth of the good man has destroyed generations. Millions of men live with the belief that being sincere, available, respectful is enough to be loved equally. But love doesn't work that way. Female love isn't born from gratitude, it's born from respect. A woman can tell you, "You're a good guy," but inside she thinks, "You don't make me feel." And there's no more dangerous phrase for a man, because when he no longer ignites anything in her, it doesn't matter how good he is. Attraction is dead, and with it, respect. The Stoic knows this. Virtue is not measured by how compliant you are, but by how much you are master of yourself. Being good, for the Stoic, doesn't mean being docile. It means being just. And justice isn't always gentle. Sometimes it requires firmness, distance, silence. Epictetus would say, "Goodness is weak if it isn't accompanied by discernment." The man who lives to be good in the eyes of others never lives for himself. He's like a leaf in the wind of opinions. One day he's loved, the next day forgotten. One day respected, the next day ignored. Because his center isn't within himself, it's in the gaze of others. And as long as the gaze of others defines you, you're not free. A woman senses this instinctively. She understands when your goodness is natural and when it's a ploy to please. She understands when you're acting like a man and when you're playing the good guy for fear of losing her. And every time she senses this, she distances herself a little further, because a woman doesn't want a man who bends to her mood. She wants a man who makes her feel that she too must rise to be by his side. She wants someone who doesn't change his nature for love, but who maintains it despite love. And this is the lesson the Stoic teaches modern men. Stop being good out of fear. Be good by choice. Be firm even when it's inconvenient. Be honest even when it costs. Be silent even when the world screams. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Never stop being just, even if no one recognizes you." Being good doesn't mean being perfect. It means knowing how to control anger, not repress it. It means knowing how to love, not to depend. It means giving, but not selling yourself short. And above all, it means knowing who you are, even when no one understands you. Because true goodness is never blind. It is never desperate. It is never servile. It is calm, lucid, selective. It is the gesture of someone who could destroy, but chooses not to. Epictetus would say, "The goodness of the wise is control, not weakness." Thus, the man who learns to be good in the right way stops feeling like a victim. He no longer asks himself, "Why don't they appreciate me?" He asks himself, "Am I respecting myself?" And the answer to that question is what determines his destiny. Because when you begin to respect yourself, The world changes the way it treats you. The woman who previously ignored you begins to observe you with curiosity. She doesn't understand what has happened, but she senses that something in you has changed. You no longer seek to please, you are enough for yourself. You no longer always offer yourself, you choose yourself. And in that moment, you regain the power you had forgotten, that of being a man. Every man who loses the respect of a woman, or of the world, has made the same invisible mistake. He began to seek approval, not strength, not clarity, not consistency, but approval. It is the moment when you stop acting out of conviction and start acting out of reaction, where every gesture, every word, every decision becomes a silent request. Tell me I'm okay. Tell me I'm not wrong. Tell me you accept me. And that's where your inner strength begins to crumble, because the man who seeks approval no longer lives by choice. He lives for others. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "He who worries about pleasing everyone loses the path of duty." And that phrase encapsulates the silent tragedy of many good men. They convince themselves that to be loved they must conform, that to be respected they must avoid disagreement, that to be seen they must appear perfect. But perfection doesn't generate respect. It generates boredom. Respect is born from contrast, from the tension between calm and firmness, between availability and boundaries. When you eliminate that tension, you become flat. And a woman, faced with a flat man, feels no attraction. She feels drowsy. Epictetus would say, "He who seeks peace at all costs loses self-respect." The need for approval is a poison that takes hold slowly. At first it seems harmless, a small gesture of courtesy, a silence to avoid conflict, an okay to avoid appearing cold. Then it becomes habit. You find yourself smiling even when you don't want to, saying yes when you want to say no, justifying yourself even when you're right. And slowly, you stop recognizing yourself. You feel empty, but you don't understand why. You do everything right, yet you're treated as if you no longer matter. And you ask yourself, what am I doing wrong? The answer is harsh. You're begging for approval. And every time you beg for it, the world takes it away from you, because approval is like water in your hands. The more you squeeze, the more it slips away. And the more you try to please, the more fake you seem, because those who seek acceptance lose authenticity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not fear judgment. Fear rather that you may judge yourself and find yourself empty." The man who lives to please others no longer knows who he is. His personality changes depending on who he is in front of. With her, he is sweet. With friends, he is strong. With others, he is neutral. He is no longer himself. It is a version filtered for survival. But the Stoic does not filter the truth. He speaks it calmly, because he is not afraid of the consequences. He knows that the truth can make you lose someone, but it will never make you lose yourself. Epictetus would say, "Better to be hated for what you are than loved for what you are not." Every time you seek approval, you are implicitly saying, "I am not enough for myself." And those who are not enough for themselves cannot inspire respect. A woman senses this energy before you even open your mouth, because approval is perceived like a subtle scent. It is the haste with which you respond. It is your voice that changes tone when you fear disappointing her. It's the smile you force to appear calm. It's the anxiety that seeps through every little gesture. She doesn't tell you, but she feels it. And a part of her begins to distance itself. Not because she judges you, but because the feminine nature seeks a centered man, not a man seeking validation. The Stoic doesn't seek approval. He seeks alignment. He wants to be consistent, not complacent. He wants to tell the truth, not to be liked. He wants to be respected, not idolized. And to do that, he must accept being misunderstood. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Let them think what they want. Your mind remains your own." When you learn to live without approval, something rare happens. Respect returns. People begin to treat you differently, not because you're convincing them, but because they feel you no longer need approval. And those who don't need approval become magnetic. The man who doesn't seek validation has a calm yet powerful energy. He doesn't need to raise his voice or justify himself. His calm says it all. When you speak, people listen. When you remain silent, people respect you. When you act, no one dares waste your time. Because your presence doesn't demand, it defines. Epictetus would say, "Approval is a golden chain. Break it, and you'll see how heavy it was." The day you stop seeking it, you finally begin to live like a man. You no longer worry about whether you're liked or not, because you understand that life isn't a popularity contest, but a test of integrity. And integrity isn't begged for. It's earned every day, in the silence of your choices. The Stoic isn't cold. He's indifferent to vanity. He does what's right, even if it doesn't suit him. He says what he thinks, even if he isn't applauded. He stays the course, even when everyone misunderstands him. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't live as if you needed praise. Right action is your only reward." This is the highest freedom, not needing approval to feel complete. When you get to this point, people who previously ignored you begin to look at you with new eyes. They don't understand what's changed, but they sense the difference. You've stopped asking, and you've started being. And from that moment on, you no longer chase respect. You emanate it. Rejection is the moment when many men break. But for the Stoic, it's the moment when everything truly begins. Because rejection isn't the end. It's the revelation. Not someone who fears losing her. The excessively available man is never free. Even when he smiles, he lives in anxiety. Even when he gives, he is afraid. Even when he says it's okay, inside he feels that something is completely wrong. But he continues, because he believes that one day he will be rewarded for his perseverance, for his patience, for his being different from others. But it doesn't happen, because there is no respect where there is no tension. The absence of boundaries is not love, it is a lack of self-esteem. Epictetus would say, "The man who does not impose limits will always be limited by others." The woman, even if she doesn't admit it, seeks the limit. She seeks the man who can say, "Enough." She seeks someone who contains her, who makes her feel the solidity that, emotionally, she doesn't always have. Not to dominate her, but to give her security. And security doesn't come from control. It comes from self-control. When you are too available, you communicate that you have no center, that you have no life beyond her, that you are incapable of being alone. And those who cannot be alone cannot be respected. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The complete man is self-sufficient, not out of pride, but out of order." Being self-sufficient doesn't mean isolating yourself. It means knowing that your value doesn't change if someone ignores you, that your calm doesn't depend on the message you receive, that your happiness is non-negotiable. The man who gives everything loses everything, because in giving without measure, he kills the desire that kept him alive. The invisible price of excessive availability is the loss of charisma. And charisma isn't superficial charm, it's vital tension. It's that subtle sensation you convey when you don't bend, when you maintain your pace, when you don't respond immediately, when you don't justify yourself, when you don't ask for explanations. A woman, faced with that energy, feels two opposites: security and challenge. That's exactly what keeps her attracted. The Stoic knows it's not about ignoring or manipulating, but about remaining present within yourself. Epictetus would say, "No one can take your strength away from you unless you give it to them." Every time you make yourself too available, you are giving away your strength. Every time you respond out of fear, you are losing authority. Every time you apologize for being yourself, you are giving up your identity. Respect doesn't come from how much you give, but from how much you keep. Maintain your time, your space, your calm, your independence. Because in the end, the truth is simple. The man who can't always be found is the one who is always sought. Since you were a child, they told you, be good, be kind, treat others well. Women love good men. And you believed it. You built your entire identity around that word, good. You learn to avoid conflict, to smile even when you were disrespected, to remain silent so as not to appear aggressive. You believed that being good was the path to being loved. But over time, you've discovered a burning truth. Being good isn't enough. In fact, it's often precisely what makes you invisible. Not because goodness is wrong, but because when it's not accompanied by strength, it becomes fragility. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "He who wants to be virtuous must also be strong." Virtue without strength is like a house without foundations. It may seem beautiful from the outside, but the first wind knocks it down. The good man, in the common sense, is a man trained to please. He's not truly compassionate. He's conditioned to validation. He's learned that always saying yes will save him from problems. That pleasing will make him acceptable. That being accommodating will earn him love. But that's not the case, because the world doesn't respect those who sacrifice their truth for pleasure. It uses them. Epictetus would say, "He who renounces his opinion for convenience renounces his soul for fear." The good man doesn't dare. He doesn't say what he thinks. He doesn't set boundaries. He apologizes even when it's unnecessary. He asks permission to feel desire. And in the end, she convinces herself that women don't want good men. But that's not true. Women don't want weak men disguised as good. The difference is enormous. Women admire the kindness that comes from security, not the kind that comes from need. The truly good man knows how to say no. He knows how to stand firm. He knows how to disappoint, if necessary, because his kindness is a choice, not a fear. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be kind, but don't give up what makes you whole." Yet, the myth of the good man has destroyed generations. Millions of men live with the belief that being sincere, available, respectful is enough to be loved equally. But love doesn't work that way. Female love isn't born from gratitude, it's born from respect. A woman can tell you, "You're a good guy," but inside she thinks, "You don't make me feel." And there's no more dangerous phrase for a man, because when he no longer ignites anything in her, it doesn't matter how good he is. Attraction is dead, and with it, respect. The Stoic knows this. Virtue is not measured by how compliant you are, but by how much you are master of yourself. Being good for the Stoic doesn't mean being docile. It means being just, and justice isn't always gentle. Sometimes it requires firmness, distance, silence. Epictetus would say, "Goodness is weak if it isn't accompanied by discernment." The man who lives to be good in the eyes of others never lives for himself. He's like a leaf in the wind of opinions. One day he's loved, the next day forgotten. One day respected, the next day ignored. Because his center isn't within himself, it's in the gaze of others. And as long as the gaze of others defines you, you're not free. A woman senses this instinctively. She understands when your goodness is natural and when it's a ploy to please. She understands when you're acting like a man and when you're playing the good guy for fear of losing her. And every time she senses this, she distances herself a little further, because a woman doesn't want a man who bends to her mood. She wants a man who makes her feel that she too must rise to be by his side. She wants someone who doesn't change his nature for love, but who maintains it despite love. And this is the lesson the Stoic teaches modern man. Stop being good out of fear. Be good by choice. Be firm even when it's inconvenient. Be honest even when it costs. Be silent even when the world screams. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Never stop being just, even if no one recognizes you." Being good doesn't mean being perfect. It means knowing how to control anger, not repress it. It means knowing how to love, not to depend. It means giving, but not selling yourself short. And above all, it means knowing who you are, even when no one understands you. Because true goodness is never blind. It is never desperate. It is never servile. It is calm, lucid, selective. It is the gesture of someone who could destroy, but chooses not to. Epictetus would say, "The goodness of the wise is control, not weakness." Thus, The man who learns to be good in the right way stops feeling like a victim. He no longer asks himself, "Why don't they appreciate me?" He asks himself, "Am I respecting myself?" And the answer to that question is what determines his destiny. Because when you begin to respect yourself, the world changes the way it treats you. The woman who previously ignored you begins to observe you with curiosity. She doesn't understand what has happened, but she senses that something in you has changed. You no longer seek to please, you are enough for yourself. You no longer always offer yourself, you choose yourself. And in that moment you regain the power you had forgotten, that of being a man. Every man who loses the respect of a woman or of the world has made the same invisible mistake. He began to seek approval, not strength, not clarity, not consistency, but approval. It is the moment when you stop acting out of conviction and start acting out of reaction, where every gesture, every word, every decision becomes a silent request. Tell me I'm okay. Tell me I'm not wrong. Tell me you accept me. And that's where your inner strength begins to crumble, because the man who seeks approval no longer lives by choice. He lives for others. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "He who worries about pleasing everyone loses the path of duty." And that phrase encapsulates the silent tragedy of many good men. They convince themselves that to be loved they must conform, that to be respected they must avoid disagreement, that to be seen they must appear perfect. But perfection doesn't generate respect, it generates boredom. Respect is born from contrast, from the tension between calm and firmness, between availability and boundaries. When you eliminate that tension, you become flat. And a woman, faced with a flat man, feels no attraction. She feels drowsy. Epictetus would say, "He who seeks peace at all costs loses self-respect. The need for approval is a poison that takes hold slowly. At first it seems harmless, a small gesture of courtesy, a silence to avoid conflict, an okay to avoid appearing cold. Then it becomes habit. You find yourself smiling even when you don't want to, saying yes when you want to say no, justifying yourself even when you're right. And slowly, you stop recognizing yourself. You feel empty, but you don't understand why. You do everything right, yet you're treated as if you no longer matter. And you ask yourself, what am I doing wrong? The answer is harsh. You're begging for approval. And every time you beg for it, the world takes it away from you, because approval is like water in your hands. The more you squeeze, the more it slips away. And the more you try to please, the more fake you seem, because those who seek acceptance lose authenticity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not fear judgment. Fear rather that you may judge yourself and find yourself empty." The man who lives to please others no longer knows who he is. His personality changes depending on who he is in front of. With her, he is sweet. With friends, he is strong. With others, he is neutral. He is no longer himself. It is a version filtered for survival. But the Stoic does not filter the truth. He speaks it calmly, because he is not afraid of the consequences. He knows that the truth can make you lose someone, but it will never make you lose yourself. Epictetus would say, "Better to be hated for what you are than loved for what you are not." Every time you seek approval, you are implicitly saying, "I am not enough for myself." And those who are not enough for themselves cannot inspire respect. A woman senses this energy before you even open your mouth, because approval is perceived like a subtle scent. It is the haste with which you respond. It is your voice that changes tone when you fear disappointing her. It's the smile you force to appear calm. It's the anxiety that seeps through every little gesture. She doesn't tell you, but she feels it. And a part of her begins to distance itself. Not because she judges you, but because the feminine nature seeks a centered man, not a man seeking validation. The Stoic doesn't seek approval, he seeks alignment. He wants to be consistent, not complacent. He wants to tell the truth, not to be liked. He wants to be respected, not idolized. And to do that, he must accept being misunderstood. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Let them think what they want. Your mind remains your own." When you learn to live without approval, something rare happens. Respect returns. People begin to treat you differently, not because you're convincing them, but because they feel you no longer need approval. And those who don't need approval become magnetic. The man who doesn't seek validation has a calm yet powerful energy. He doesn't need to raise his voice or justify himself. His calm says it all. When you speak, people listen. When you remain silent, people respect you. When you act, no one dares waste your time. Because your presence doesn't demand, it defines. Epictetus would say, "Approval is a golden chain. Break it and you'll see how heavy it was." The day you stop seeking it, you finally begin to live like a man. You no longer worry about whether you're liked or not, because you understand that life isn't a popularity contest, but a test of integrity. And integrity isn't begged for. It's earned every day, in the silence of your choices. The Stoic isn't cold. He's indifferent to vanity. He does what's right, even if it doesn't suit him. He says what he thinks, even if he isn't applauded. He stays the course, even when everyone misunderstands him. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't live as if you needed praise. Right action is your only reward." This is the highest freedom, not needing approval to feel complete. When you get to this point, people who previously ignored you begin to look at you with new eyes. They don't understand what's changed, but they sense the difference. You've stopped asking and you've started being. And from that moment on, you no longer chase respect. You emanate it. Rejection is the moment when many men break. But for the Stoic, it's the moment when everything truly begins. Because rejection isn't the end. It's the revelation. It shows you who you were and how much you still identify with external approval. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nothing that happens can harm your soul unless you allow it." And rejection, in the mind of the common man, is just that. A permission you give to pain to define you. They tell you, "I'm not interested," and you take it as a verdict on your worth. They ignore you, and you interpret it as proof that you're not good enough. They replace you, and you think you've been rejected for being defective. But the Stoic doesn't react that way. Not because he doesn't feel, but because he knows the difference between pain and interpretation. Epictetus would say, "It's not things that disturb us, but the opinions we have about things." Rejection is never the problem. It's the story you tell yourself afterward that destroys you. "I'm not enough. I'm worthless. I should have done more." But all these sentences are false, because no one can measure your worth, only you. The Stoic transforms rejection into power because he uses it as a mirror, not as a judgment, but as a lesson. He asks, "Where did I lose my center? Why did my balance depend on one person? What did I forget about myself while trying to please?" Every no becomes a teacher. Every silence, a meditation. Every loss, a return to oneself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What happens to you was written for you. Don't ask why, but how you can use it." And this is the secret of inner freedom. Stop resisting rejection and start nourishing it. When a woman rejects you, she's not taking away your value. She's restoring your truth. She's showing you that you'd placed too much importance on outside yourself, that you'd forgotten that love isn't begged for, it's reflected. Epictetus would say, "He who doesn't know how to lose will never know how to win." Because loss is never real. It's just the scaling down of illusion. Every time you're rejected, you have the chance to come back whole, to understand how much you had invested in the perception of others, instead of investing in your own growth. Rejection is a merciless but sincere teacher. It strips away your masks, exposes your dependencies, forces you to look at yourself without filters. And those who know how to look at themselves honestly become untouchable. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "He who does not fear judgment owns himself." The Stoic doesn't fear not being chosen because he has already chosen himself. And the moment he does, his vibration changes. He is no longer the man who chases, but the man who walks. The world respects those who walk, not those who stop to ask why. When a woman rejects you, it's not always because she's lacking interest. Sometimes she does it to test your solidity. She wants to see if you remain a man even after disappointment, or if you melt into need. And you, if you react calmly, if you smile and move on without resentment, without revenge, without explanations, you send her a powerful message. I have lost nothing. I have simply seen who I truly am. This is the Stoic way of winning without fighting. Epictetus would say, "He who conquers himself has no more adversaries." Every time you accept rejection with dignity, you are training the strongest part of you, presence, the ability to remain centered even when everything around you wavers. That's where calm becomes charisma. That's where serenity becomes magnetism. That's where a woman begins to ask herself, why didn't he break? Because a man's true power is seen not when he is accepted, but when he is rejected and remains the same. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The man who gets up after falling is stronger than the one who never fell." Every rejection is a spiritual workout. Every disappointment is a training ground for your self-esteem. Every "I don't want you" is an invitation to want yourself more. And when you learn to see rejection as a resource, you become dangerous, because nothing can scare you anymore. The woman who once had power over you loses it, not because you hate her, but because you've stopped depending on her to feel alive. And that independence, that silent calm, becomes irresistible. Epictetus would say, "He who fears nothing can be dominated by no one." Thus, the Stoic transforms rejection into strength. He doesn't react, he doesn't beg, he doesn't explain. He observes, understands, and continues. Not out of pride, but out of self-respect. Because he knows that those who need to be chosen are not yet free, but those who know how to choose themselves can no longer be rejected. Because her approval is worth more than anyone else's. And from that moment, rejection no longer hurts. It becomes simply a signal. You're back on your path. The world has taught you that love is demonstrated by presence, by consistency, by constant attention. But hasn't he ever told you that, in a woman's mind and heart, too much presence takes away space from desire? Desire is born from distance, from absence, from the mystery that remains when you don't offer yourself completely. It's not a game. It's a psychological law. Because desire cannot survive without tension. And tension arises only when something isn't totally available. Epictetus would say, "What we cannot possess entirely attracts us eternally." When you're always there, always ready, always connected, she no longer has room to imagine you, and what she can't imagine stops making her dream. Imagination is the oxygen of attraction. And the calm of a man who knows how to remain detachment is the most subtle and powerful way to keep that fire alive. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "He who knows how to renounce has already conquered what he desires." Detachment isn't coldness. It's mastery. It's knowing that you don't have to chase to obtain, that you don't have to force to deserve, that you don't have to fill every silence to be noticed. Calm is more powerful than desire, because desire arises from lack, while calm arises from completeness. When a man is calm, he exudes stability. And stability, in the language of feminine energy, is irresistible. A woman doesn't want a perfect man. She wants a calm man, one who doesn't get upset when she withdraws, who doesn't get offended when she stays silent, who doesn't react when she provokes. She wants to feel that, no matter what happens, he remains centered, because that calm communicates only one thing: I don't need you, I choose you. And there is no phrase more seductive than this. Epictetus would say, "The free man does not desire what he cannot control." The Stoic is not devoid of passion. He is master of passion. He knows that the energy of desire is powerful, but he also knows that if you let it escape, it becomes weakness. When you are too wrapped up in a woman, you are not loving her. You are losing control. When you think about her constantly, you are fueling the fire of need. When you struggle to fill the silence, you are confessing your fear. But when you learn to remain detached, the game changes. You don't distance yourself out of strategy. You distance yourself out of self-respect, because you know that every time you invade, you're robbing her of the chance to desire you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Give space to the world, and the world will come to you." Detachment is space. It's the oxygen between two people. It's the pause that transforms a normal gesture into a mystery. It's the absence that sparks the imagination. A woman falls in love with what she doesn't fully understand, and the man who knows how to remain calm in silence transmits precisely this to her. You can't predict me, you can't control me, you can't read my mind. Not to manipulate her, but because he lives in a state of inner fulfillment. Epictetus would say, "He who possesses himself must not be noticed." Calm is like a magnetic field. It's the vibration of someone who doesn't rush, of someone who doesn't need to get things right away, of someone who knows how to wait, knowing that everything that belongs to him will come in its own time. A woman perceives it as strength, because the world surrounds her with impatient, nervous, available men, ready to prove themselves. And then she finds you, who doesn't chase, doesn't react, doesn't beg, who smiles as you walk away, who stays silent without anger, who doesn't seek validation because you're already sure of who you are. And that calm becomes power. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Calm is the sign of the man who has won the most difficult battle, the one against himself." Every man is desirable, but only the calm man is respected in the long run. Because calm is rare, it's the gold of modern masculinity. We live in an age of reactions, of impulsive messages, of uncontrolled emotions. Being calm today is an act of rebellion. Detachment is not disinterest. It's the conscious choice not to waste your energy where it's not needed. It's saying, "I see you, but I'm not consumed by you. I desire you, but I don't lose myself to have you." And in that gesture, the woman feels something she hasn't felt in a long time. Respect. Because only the man who doesn't need her is truly free to love her. Epictetus would say, "He who knows how to live without is worthy of having." And this is the oldest and most forgotten truth of the modern world. He who detaches himself doesn't lose. He who holds back doesn't repress. He who remains calm is not cold. He is strong. Detachment is an escape. It's control. It's the point where desire transforms into power, where your energy no longer flows outward, but focuses inward. And everything that was distant slowly begins to return on its own. Calm attracts because it is stability in an unstable world. Because amidst the noise, he who knows how to remain silent becomes a beacon. And that light, that vibration of presence, is what the woman seeks, even when she can't say it. Because deep down, she's not looking for a man to chase her. She's looking for a man who won't run away from himself. And that man is always calm, always present, always in control of his own detachment. A man without boundaries is a man without an identity. And a man without an identity will never be respected, not by a woman, not by the world. Many believe that always saying yes is a sign of openness, of kindness, of love. But in reality, it's often just the fear of saying no. Fear of losing, fear of disappointing, fear of appearing selfish. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "No one can respect you if you don't know where you end up first." Boundaries aren't walls. They're lines of force. They're your way of telling the world, "Here I am, and this is what is sacred to me." Saying no isn't an act of aggression. It's an act of self-respect. It's the quietest yet most powerful statement a man can make. Because saying no means having an identity. It means knowing what you deserve and what you will never accept again. Epictetus would say, "A free man is one who doesn't let himself be forced to say yes." Every time you say yes out of fear, you're exchanging your dignity for a moment of approval. Every time you accept something that weighs on you, you're teaching the other person that they can cross your boundaries without consequences. And when you do it with a woman, when she understands that you're willing to endure anything just to avoid losing her, she loses you anyway. But not for a lack of love, for a lack of respect. Because a woman can't admire a man who doesn't protect his own space. She can't feel safe with someone who isn't sure of himself. She can't feel desire for someone who lets himself be shaped at will. Boundaries, in the female mind, aren't obstacles. They're signs of strength. Every no said calmly and firmly doesn't close a door. It ignites the perception of value. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What resists without anger conquers without effort." The Stoic doesn't shout his boundaries. He embodies them. He doesn't need to threaten or explain. His calm is enough. It's felt in his voice, his gaze, his posture. Saying no in anger is still weakness. Saying no calmly is power. The man who knows how to say no communicates one precise thing. I'm not interested in being understood. I'm interested in being consistent. And consistency is what generates profound respect. Epictetus would say, "The respect others have for you is proportional to the respect you have for yourself." Every time you allow someone to trample on your boundaries, you're training that person not to respect you. And when it happens enough times, the fault is no longer theirs. It's yours. The Stoic knows this. Boundaries aren't there to control others, but to preserve your own inner peace. Because peace isn't born from the absence of conflict, but from the absence of compromise on what's essential to you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not let your soul mix too much with what does not belong to it." Boundaries serve precisely this purpose, to keep your mental space clear, to protect your energy from those who do not understand it, to prevent the neediness of others from becoming your slavery. A woman, when she finds a man with clear boundaries, doesn't feel rejected. She feels protected, because she understands that he will not lose himself in her, that he will not transform himself into what she wants, but will remain who he is, and this makes him trustworthy. It's paradoxical, but it's true. A man's no is often more attractive than his yes, because the no comes from a position of power, while a constant yes often arises from fear. Epictetus would say, "He who cannot deny is already a prisoner." The man who cannot say no becomes a puppet of other people's emotions. He reacts, he bends, he justifies himself. And every time he does, he feels a little sinking inside, a point lower on his self-esteem scale. But the man who knows how to say no calmly, who doesn't let himself be dragged down by guilt or emotional blackmail, is a man who lives freely. It's not about harshness, but about spiritual discipline. It's knowing when to be present and when to withdraw without resentment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The virtuous man chooses what is right, not what is comfortable." Saying no is uncomfortable. It makes you feel guilty. It puts you against expectations. It makes you fear losing. But that's precisely where your strength is measured, because those who know how to say no to the right people can say yes to their mission. And those who never learn to say no end up saying yes to a life they don't want. Epictetus would say, "Slavery is not in the chains, but in the mouth of those who cannot refuse." The Stoic isn't afraid of disappointing. He knows that every no said with honor strengthens his soul, and every time he resists the temptation to please, he becomes a little more whole, a little more solid, a little more of a man. And that silent strength, that boundary not shouted but felt, is what changes everything. Because love can come and go, but respect, true respect, is never born of consent. It is born of limits. A man who knows how to say no doesn't need to raise his voice. His calm speaks for him. And when calm speaks, everyone listens. In the modern world, everyone speaks. Everyone explains, justifies, clarifies, reacts. But whoever masters silence also masters power. Silence is what remains when words are no longer needed. It is what distinguishes the man who seeks to be understood from the man who has already understood everything. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Many times silence is the wisest response." And he wasn't talking about escape, but about strength. Because only those who are fully in control of themselves can resist the temptation to explain themselves. The truth is simple. The more you speak, the more you empty the mystery. The more you justify yourself, the more guilty you seem. The more you explain your intentions, the more you seem unsure of your intentions. The Stoic knows that silence is not absence. It is elevated presence. It is the language of the man who doesn't need to be understood to feel right. It is the voice of one who has learned to let time do the work that words cannot. Epictetus would say, "He who explains himself too much is not yet convinced of what he knows." When a woman provokes you and you remain silent, you disorientate her. When she ignores you and you don't pursue, you disarm her. When she accuses you and you smile without defending yourself, you confuse her. Because silence is not weakness. It is a controlled impact. It is like an invisible blade that cuts the air without needing to be seen. In silence, the other is forced to listen to himself. And that is the moment when power changes hands. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "He who dominates himself also dominates the tumult of others." When you remain silent, you don't lose your voice. You gain gravity. Your value increases. Because silence, in a noisy world, is a sign of dominance. Every unspoken word becomes an echo that lingers in the mind of another. Every withheld answer becomes a question the other cannot answer. And the human mind hates open questions. This is how silence becomes magnetism. Epictetus would say, "He who knows how to wait forces others to move first." It is the oldest strategy, but also the most misunderstood. It is not about ignoring to manipulate, but about choosing quiet as a form of authority. When you stop reacting, people show you their true nature. Those who care about you will approach. Those who only wanted control will distance themselves. Silence is a natural filter. It removes the superfluous, leaving only the essential. And you, if you learn to use it wisely, become impenetrable. Not because you are closed, but because you are centered. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "He who speaks too much forgets to listen to his own mind." The Stoic speaks little, but every word weighs. He doesn't say, "I love you," out of anxiety. He says it out of truth. He doesn't respond out of obligation. He responds out of intention. Every gesture is calibrated, every pause is deliberate. And in the silence between one word and the next, his strength is felt. The woman perceives him as a mystery. She doesn't know where she is, what she thinks, what she feels. And that not knowing keeps her tense. Silence creates space, and in that space, desire grows. Epictetus would say, "Don't reveal everything you think, or you will lose your depth." The man who talks too much empties himself. The man who knows how to keep quiet is charged. Every unspoken word becomes accumulated energy. Every suppressed reaction becomes power. It's the law of emotional magnetism. He who holds back attracts. He who sells out repels. The Stoic uses silence as a shield, not to push away but to preserve, not to manipulate but to choose where to invest energy. He knows that not everything deserves a response. Not every provocation is worthy of attention. Not every request deserves an explanation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not waste words on those who are not ready to understand them." This is the golden rule of silence. Do not speak to be heard, but to be understood. And when you realize that understanding is not possible, be silent. Because silence is not just a pause. It is a form of self-respect. It is saying, "I will not stoop to the noise. I will wait for silence to return before speaking." And that kind of control, that emotional mastery, is worth more than 1,000 speeches. A woman feels it, not as a wall, but as a calm she has never encountered. A calm that forces her to reflect, to slow down, to measure her words. Silence, if used intentionally, makes your presence resonate even when you are not there. It is absence that speaks. It is the pause that weighs more than an explanation. Epictetus would say, "He who knows how to remain silent at the right moments governs what others do not understand." Silence is domination. It is proof that you have stopped reacting and have started choosing. That you no longer live for validation, but for consistency. That you're not interested in winning the conversation, but in conserving your energy. And when you learn this, you become dangerous. because your silence ceases to be absence and becomes authority. The world does not respect those who shout. It respects those who, though they can speak, choose to remain silent. And in that silence, you hear everything that words can never say: self-control, strength, peace. There are men who command by shouting, and then there are men who lead in silence, not because they're afraid to impose themselves, but because they've learned that true power needs no noise. Marcus Aurelius was emperor of Rome, yet he wrote at night, alone, reflecting on his own weaknesses. His power came not from his throne, but from the calm with which he observed the chaos. He who masters himself no longer needs to dominate others. This is the calm of the Stoic leader, the ability to influence without controlling, to inspire without forcing, to lead without having to win. We live in an age of ego and urgency. Everyone wants to be right, everyone wants to be heard, everyone wants to be in charge. But the more a man seeks power over others, the more he shows he has none over himself. The Stoic leader doesn't impose, he radiates. He doesn't convince, he embodies. He doesn't demand, he demonstrates. His calm isn't apathy, it's domination. It's knowing that no external event can affect his inner peace. It's knowing how to stand firm when everyone else reacts, clear-headed when everyone else is lost, present when everyone else is running away. Epictetus would say, "The great man is not the one who commands others, but the one who commands his own impulses." Calm is the sign of someone who has overcome the fear of judgment, because only those who aren't afraid of losing control can truly lead. People don't follow force, they follow security. They follow those who convey balance even when the world collapses. Those who don't react to chaos, but become the axis around which chaos revolves. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "In the whirlwind of events, stand like the rock against which the waves break." Women perceive this immediately. You don't need to proclaim yourself a leader. Just stay upright when emotions explode. Just don't get lost in its ups and downs. Just know how to listen without getting carried away. Calm is attraction, because calm is control, and control is power. But be careful. True calm is not feigned indifference. It's not playing the part of a cold and detached man. It's a living, conscious calm, full of intention. It's like the fire beneath the ashes. You don't see it, but you feel it. Epictetus would say, "The wise man is not cold, he is ardent but disciplined." The calm of the Stoic leader is contained energy. It is strength that doesn't explode, but remains under control. It is the ability to decide where to start action, not from need, but from vision. When a man acts from calm, every gesture weighs, every word seems measured, every silence charged with meaning, because he doesn't act by chance. He acts only when needed. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be like the general who knows when to wait and when to strike." Those who live in calm no longer need proof. They don't have to prove anything. They don't have to impose themselves loudly. They don't have to explain their strength. They radiate it. And this changes everything in relationships, in their career, in life. A man who stays calm in difficult times makes those around him feel safe. He's like an invisible anchor in the midst of a storm. People respect him without knowing why. Women desire him because he exudes stability. Men follow him because his presence brings order to chaos. Epictetus would say, "He who is calm also governs those who command him." Calm makes you impervious to manipulation. Those who try to provoke you give up because they realize you have no weaknesses. Those who try to make you react tire because your silence becomes a mirror. And the mirror is merciless. It reflects their own weakness back to those who attack you. The Stoic leader doesn't respond to noise. He responds to the truth. He doesn't try to convince. He seeks to understand. He doesn't fight every battle. He chooses only the ones that matter. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Not everything that deserves a response deserves time. Time is a leader's highest currency, and calm is how he invests it. Because every minute spent reacting is a minute lost in direction." The Stoic leads without imposing because he lives by principles, not by emotions. His strength comes not from controlling others, but from controlling himself. And this, in the long run, trumps any other form of power. Epictetus would say, "Authority is not asked for, it is earned, and calm is proof that you have earned it. He who is calm leads. He who leads calmly inspires, and he who inspires leaves a mark that doesn't need to be remembered, because it is felt, perceived, and lingers even after the silence." Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Virtue is the highest command." This is why the Stoic leader never shouts, not because he can't, but because he doesn't need to. His example is stronger than any word. His consistency is his weapon. His calm is his banner. It is he who enters a room and changes the atmosphere. It is he who speaks little and is listened to. It is he who, when silent, makes others think. Because calm is not emptiness, it is moral gravity. And those who possess it no longer have to chase anything. Most men are ruined not by what happens, but by how they react. An insult, a lack of respect, an ignored message, and they immediately explode. Their value is destroyed not by the offense, but by their reaction. Epictetus would say, "It is not what they do to you that hurts you, but the judgment you make of what happens." The mind of those who react is a slave to every stimulus. A word is enough to make it waver. A silence is enough to make it collapse. Those who react surrender their power to those who provoke them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "He who irritates you dominates you." This is why the Stoic does not react. Not because he is cold, but because he refuses to give others the key to his peace. Non-reaction is the subtlest yet most absolute power a man can wield. It is the silent declaration, "You don't decide how I will feel today." Every time someone tries to make you react, they are simply testing your self-control. Every time a woman provokes you, she is measuring your centeredness. Every time life challenges you, she is asking, "Have you learned? Or are you still reacting?" Epictetus would say, "He who is irritated by what he cannot control has forgotten his freedom." The power of non-reaction comes from clarity. The common man confuses control with weakness. He thinks that not responding is a sign of fear, but it is the opposite. Only those with strength can retain their energy. Reacting is easy. Anyone can do it. All it takes is ego. Remaining calm, however, requires discipline. It requires self-awareness, recognition of one's limits, and the ability to not be dragged down. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When anger calls you, don't answer it. It's the voice of someone who wants to steal your clarity." Non-reaction is not passivity, it's strategy. It's knowing that every impulsive action costs you dearly, that every word spoken in the heat of anger will be a weapon against you tomorrow. The Stoic observes before acting. He breathes before speaking. He reflects before responding, because he knows that every second of calm is worth more than an hour of regret. Epictetus would say, "He who knows how to wait wins over he who acts on impulse." Non-reaction is not emptiness. It is full presence. It's the moment you choose to be a spectator of your emotions, not their victim. That's where inner freedom is born. In knowing how to say to yourself, "I'm feeling anger, but I'm not my anger. I'm feeling pain, but I'm not my pain." And when you learn to separate yourself from what you feel, you become invulnerable. When a woman provokes you, she doesn't seek a reaction. She seeks a response that shows her you are solid, that you can contain her emotions without exploding, that you don't lose your composure over a message, a tone, a whim. Because if you let yourself get carried away, you're telling her only one thing: you're off-center. I can control you. But when you remain immobile in the face of provocation, when you respond calmly or don't respond at all, you're sending her the opposite. You don't decide my internal state. And in that moment, respect grows. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The greatest victory is to remain the same man after an offense." Not reacting is the art of remaining intact. In a world where everyone explodes, you remain still. In a world that rushes, you observe. In a world that screams, you choose silence. This doesn't mean accepting injustice. It means choosing the right moment to strike. The Stoic doesn't let things go out of fear, but out of intelligence, because he knows that the best revenge is to demonstrate that he didn't need to react to win. Epictetus would say, "Calm is the response of the man who has already won." Every time you are offended and you remain calm, you are teaching the world not to touch you anymore, because chaos does not persist where it finds no echo. And silence, in the face of provocation, is a wall that disarms. Those who insult you feed on your reaction. Those who provoke you feed on your anger. Those who want you distracted feed on your emotions. When you stop feeding them, they starve. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "No one can steal your peace unless you give it to them." This is the heart of Stoic philosophy. You cannot control the world, but you can control your response to it. And the moment you understand this, you become dangerous, because no one can make you lose control. Not with hate, not with love. True dominion is not over those who follow you, but over what moves you. And those who master their emotions are no longer slaves to the behavior of others. Epictetus would say, "The man who doesn't react is like a mountain. He can be struck but not moved." Thus, every insult becomes a test. Every provocation a training session. Every silence an invisible battlefield where you win without moving. And when you learn to win like this, you no longer have rivals, because your strength is not visible. It is internal. And nothing in the world is more powerful than a man who, though he could react, chooses not to. We live in an age where everyone reacts to everything. A word, a message, a comment, and immediately defensiveness, anger, and justification arise. But whoever wants to live as a free man must learn the most forgotten art of all, selective indifference. Epictetus would say, "Not everything deserves your attention. What you cannot control does not belong to you." Most people believe that being sensitive means being alive, but that's not the case. Being sensitive to everything means being vulnerable to everything. It means living like a leaf in the wind, carried by every opinion, every look, every emotion of others. The Stoic man, on the other hand, chooses what to give weight to, not because he is apathetic, but because he knows his energy is limited. And what doesn't deserve it must not receive it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose what bothers you, because what bothers you possesses you." Selective indifference is not contempt. It is mental selectivity. It is the ability to say, "This doesn't concern me. This won't change who I am. This will have no power over me." Modern society wants you to reactive. It wants you to respond immediately, to take offense, to explain yourself, to defend yourself. Because every time you react, you become predictable. And every time you are predictable, you become controllable. Epictetus would say, "He who lets himself be touched by everything becomes a slave to what touches him." Selective indifference is a form of domination. It's saying, not everything that happens outside has to change what happens inside. When you learn to be selectively indifferent, you become impenetrable. Not because you don't feel, but because you choose what you feel. And this is the greatest freedom a man can have. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not judge everything. Let many pass like clouds before the sun." Not every offense deserves attention. Not every provocation deserves a response. Not every request deserves effort. The man who knows how to ignore with grace is already a master of himself. Because selective indifference is not emotional laziness. It is emotional discipline. It means consciously deciding where to invest your internal resources. It means not wasting your strength on what will not make it grow. It means understanding that every time you react, you are giving power to the other. Epictetus would say, "Whoever makes you angry has won twice, first with words, then with your reaction." This is why indifference is so powerful, because it disarms those who thrive on provocation, those who want you unstable, those who draw strength from knowing you're troubled. A woman, when she understands that not everything she does affects you, begins to look at you differently, not as a cold man, but as a confident man. Because true confidence isn't saying, "I don't care," but rather demonstrating that you truly don't care. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't say they don't hurt you, but live as if they couldn't." This is the secret of calm virility. Don't be swept away by what you can't control. Don't allow the world to dictate your emotional state. Don't respond to everything that demands a reaction. Selective indifference is like an invisible filter. It lets only what is worthy pass, blocking out everything else. And when you learn to use it, your mind becomes a sacred place. The Stoic doesn't harden, he refines. He doesn't close himself off, he chooses. He doesn't become insensitive, he becomes impervious to the superfluous. Epictetus would say, "The sea does not reject the waves, but remains the sea." This is how your mind should be. Welcome what comes, but do not let anything define you. Let everything flow, but remain still at the center, because the world will try to pull you from every side. Emotions, people, news, fears. But he who has learned selective indifference is no longer an ordinary man. He is a pillar. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be like the pillar upon which the sea crashes. Stand firm, and the waves break at your feet." Every time you choose not to react, not to take offense, not to justify yourself, you are exercising this forgotten virtue. It is not an act of weakness. It is an act of inner governance. Because you cannot guide your life if anyone can guide your emotions. The Stoic is indifferent not because he does not love, but because he does not allow himself to be destroyed by what he loves. He is the perfect balance between empathy and independence, between warmth and boundary, between sensitivity and control. Epictetus would say, "Love, but remain free." Selective indifference is freedom in action. It is proof that you have stopped living by reaction and have begun to live by choice. And from that moment, nothing can truly touch you, because everything that touches you passes through the filter of your awareness. And what does not pass that filter no longer exists for you. A man is only as valuable as his ability not to betray himself, not his muscles, not his success, not his beauty, but the steadfastness with which he remains faithful to his principles, even under pressure. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul remains invincible until it accepts defeat." And a man's soul is defeated every time he gives up self-control, every time he gives into anger, fear, the need to please, every time he reacts instead of choosing, speaks instead of observing, bends instead of standing firm. Self-control is not repression. It is directed power. It is the difference between a flame that burns everything and a flame that illuminates. Epictetus would say, "He who does not command himself is destined to be commanded by others." When you don't control your emotions, you become predictable, and anyone can manipulate you. One word and you snap. One silence and you collapse. One ignored message and you lose lucidity. Every time this happens, you're telling the world, "I am not yet master of myself." But when you learn self-control, everything changes, because you begin to exude natural authority, not the kind built with attitudes or appearances, but the kind that comes from inner control. A woman senses it immediately. You don't win her over with words. You captivate her with your calm, not with your ego, but with your mastery. Because self-control, in the eyes of a woman, isn't coldness. It's mystery. It's proof that you're not a slave to your impulses, that you don't lose yourself to obtain, that you don't betray yourself to please. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "He who controls his desires is more powerful than he who conquers cities." And he was right, because dominating the world is simple, but dominating yourself is a daily battle. And only those who win that war become truly dangerous, because they are unpredictable, inaccessible, untouchable. Epictetus would say, "The man who governs himself fears nothing, because nothing can tear him from himself." Self-control is what transforms others' perception of you. There's no need to raise your voice. There's no need to appear superior. You just need to remain consistent when others lose their way. When it provokes you and you don't react, you are elevating yourself. When the world challenges you and you respond with clarity, you are demonstrating greatness. When you choose silence over drama, calm over revenge, you are speaking the language of the strong. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What depends on you cannot hurt you. What does not depend on you is not worth your fear." Self-control is this understanding transformed into behavior. It's knowing that you have no power over what happens, but you always have power over how you react. And that awareness sets you free. Freedom isn't doing what you want. It's not being dominated by what you want. It's looking at desire and saying, "Not today." It's looking at anger and saying, "Not now." It's looking at fear and saying, "It will pass." Epictetus would say, "He who masters his passions possesses the world without asking." Because the world belongs to those who aren't at the mercy of their emotions, to those who remain centered even when everything around them wavers, to those who don't let themselves be swept away by those who shout louder. This type of man is rare, and precisely for this reason, irresistible, because in an age of collective hysteria, calm is a luxury. Self-control is magnetism. Consistency is seduction. A woman may not rationally understand why a man's calm attracts her, but she feels it in her body, because calm is security, and security is pure desire. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't try to please, be stable, and the world will find peace beside you." The man who never betrays himself doesn't waste time convincing. He doesn't explain his worth, he lives it. He doesn't seek validation, he inspires it. His every action is aligned with his principles. His every word is consistent with his silence. His every reaction is filtered by reason, not instinct. This doesn't make him rigid. It makes him imperial, like a general who observes the battle and calmly chooses when to move. Epictetus would say, "Don't be afraid of appearing slow, only fear acting without awareness." Self-control isn't speed. It's direction. It's knowing that every word has weight, every gesture a consequence. And those who act with self-control never miss the mark. This is why, in the long run, self-control is what separates the respected man from the forgotten man. Because the respected man is predictable in his principles, but unpredictable in his emotions. And this makes him feared and admired at the same time. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Consistency is the highest form of charisma." When your energy remains stable, the world shapes itself around you. You don't have to force. You don't have to ask. All you need is integrity. And from that moment, everything changes, because people begin to understand that you will never give in, that you will never lose yourself, that you will never betray yourself, not even for love, not even for fear, not even for pleasure. And a man like that doesn't have to raise his voice to be heard, because his integrity is already a cry that resonates in those who look at him. There's a silent law in human psychology. He who chases loses value. This applies to love, work, friendship, and life. Because chasing means communicating to the world that you lack something, and everything that conveys lack distances. The Stoic doesn't chase, not because he doesn't desire it, but because he doesn't depend. He learned that what must come will come effortlessly, and what doesn't come was never truly his. Epictetus would say, "Do not chase what flees, but make yourself worthy of what remains." The man who chases is a man who has forgotten his center. He defines himself by the response of the other. He loves me, therefore I am worthy. He ignores me, therefore I lose. But a man's value is not measured by reciprocity, but by his self-sufficiency. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "He who finds peace within himself does not beg for it from others." And this is the difference between attraction and need. Need demands. Attraction attracts. Need pursues. Attraction invites. The self-sufficient man isn't attached by posturing. He's whole. He doesn't need to chase because he doesn't seek validation. He doesn't ask for attention. He receives it. He doesn't force connection. He lets it develop naturally. When a man doesn't chase, he sends an invisible but powerful signal. I don't need you to be complete. And this, paradoxically, is what sparks interest. Epictetus would say, The man who doesn't need is the most desired because his freedom is a mystery. Freedom is magnetic. People are attracted to those who aren't trapped because there's something rare in their way of life: serenity. And serenity, in a world filled with anxiety, is pure luxury. When a woman feels you're not trying to hold her back, that you're not chasing her, that you're not bowing to silence, something inside her shifts. She shifts from power to curiosity. You ask yourself, why didn't he react? Why doesn't he look for me? Why does he seem so happy without me? And that's where the energy shifts. Because true power isn't holding back, it's letting go without losing yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Let everything follow its natural course. He who goes against the flow wastes himself." Chasing always comes from fear. Fear of losing, fear of being forgotten, fear of not being worthy. But every time you give in to that fear, you distance yourself from your true value. Because respect isn't born from possession, it comes from detachment, from the ability to stay centered even when the other walks away, from the strength to say, okay, if he has to go, let him go. Epictetus would say, don't hold back anyone who wants to leave. Hold only yourself and you will lack nothing. Self-sufficiency isn't solitude, it's mastery. It's living knowing that even if everything collapses, you remain standing. It's walking with your back straight with a calm mind, knowing you don't have to prove anything to anyone. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The wise man doesn't seek the crowd, but the crowd follows him. He who doesn't chase attracts." Because he communicates subconscious control. I'm in no hurry. I'm not afraid. I don't need. And whoever feels these three things together can't help but draw closer. The man who doesn't chase stands out immediately. When he's ignored, he doesn't send a second message. When he's challenged, he doesn't justify himself. When he's rejected, he doesn't take offense. He simply withdraws, leaving silence and curiosity behind him. Epictetus would say, "The calm of one who doesn't chase is the loudest of responses." Because that silence isn't empty. It's a contained presence. It's the echo of a man who hasn't lost his dignity over a momentary emotion. And dignity is the one thing you can't fake. Either you have it, or you're still looking for it. The Stoic, when he doesn't chase, isn't punishing. He's simply respecting the natural law of reciprocity. If something is meant for you, it will find you even if you stand still. And if it doesn't find you, it was a lesson, not a loss. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What is yours cannot escape you. What isn't, never belonged to you." The man who doesn't chase isn't passive. He's strategic. He knows that his energy is sacred, that emotional investment should be made only where it resonates, and that love, if it is to grow, must do so in freedom, not in necessity. Epictetus would say, "Don't seek to possess what you desire. Learn to attract it by standing still." This is the paradox of attraction. The more you chase, the less you receive. The more you withdraw, the more interesting you become. Not because you play, but because you transmit silent power. And that power, over time, builds respect, trust, and desire. A woman doesn't want a man who throws himself at her feet. She wants a man who gets up even when she falls. She wants to feel that his attention is a privilege, not a dependency. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be whole, and those who seek you will come by themselves." This is the heart of it all. Self-sufficiency doesn't reject. It elevates. It takes you to a dimension where you don't exist to be chosen, but to choose who is worthy of your time, your energy, your love. Those who chase live in anxiety. Those who wait live in hope. Those who walk straight live in certainty. And certainty is the highest form of calm. It's what says, I'm not looking for anything. Everything I need is already within me. And when you get there, there's no need to chase anyone anymore. Because anyone with a modicum of sensitivity will start chasing you. Everything we've said so far, silence, detachment, calm, self-control, boundaries, leads to one point, inner peace. Not the fake kind of social media, motivational peace, Not the kind made up of forced smiles and empty quotes, but real, profound, concrete peace. The kind that comes when you stop fighting what you can't control and finally learn to master what you can: yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Tranquility of the soul is the true greatness of man." A man at peace is a complete man, not because he no longer feels anything, but because he feels everything and chooses what deserves a response. Inner peace is not the absence of emotions, it is order in emotions. A man at peace is not empty. He is full of himself, not in the sense of arrogance, but in the highest sense of the word. He has learned to be self-sufficient. He no longer needs to chase, to explain himself, to be understood. He no longer needs to win every argument, nor to always be seen, always loved, always remembered. He knows that everything that is destined to last, lasts even in silence. Epictetus would say, "No one can disturb someone who has learned to live in harmony with himself." Inner peace is the ultimate level of male power, because when you reach that point, the world can no longer touch you. Not because problems no longer exist, but because nothing inside you reacts automatically anymore. They insult you, you remain calm. They ignore you, you remain centered. They provoke you, you smile. They reject you, you continue. And not because you're insensitive, but because you have stopped giving anyone the key to your balance. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not seek peace outside yourself. If you do not build it within, you will not find it anywhere." A man at peace does not need to control others because he controls himself, and this makes him unpredictable and free. A woman perceives this immediately. She does not frame it, does not dominate it, does not define it, because peace is a form of energy that cannot be manipulated. It is like the calm sea that hides power beneath the surface. He may seem calm, but no one dares provoke him too much. Epictetus would say, "He who is at peace with himself brings disorder to those who live in disorder." Inner peace is not sweetness, it is authority. It is the certainty that nothing can destroy what is solid within you. And a woman, faced with such a man, feels not only attraction, she feels reverence, because she perceives that his strength is not an act of control, but a natural state. Peace is the highest form of masculinity, because only a man who has fought against his own shadows and conquered them can remain serene in the midst of chaos. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The great man is he who remains calm in the midst of the storm." And that calm is not built by reading inspiring quotes. It is built through solitude, disappointments, falls, defeats that force you to look within. Inner peace comes when you stop complaining about what's wrong and start asking yourself, "What can I do now to remain firm?" Every time you choose calm over anger, you are training for peace. Every time you choose silence over explanation, you are cultivating strength. Every time you choose to let go of what you cannot hold back, you are gaining power. Epictetus would say, "Do not seek for things to go as you wish, but desire them to go as they should, and your life will be at peace." A man at peace is not devoid of ambition, but he is not a slave to it. He works, he builds, he loves, but he does not cling. He does everything with intensity, but without dependence, and this balance makes him invincible. When you are at peace, you no longer need to win every battle, because you understand that the true victory is not to be dragged into the battlefield of others. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "He who does not participate in the folly of men has already won the most important war." Peace is spiritual strength. It's proof that you're no longer reactive, but creative. That you don't live to defend yourself, but to express yourself. That you no longer seek control, but harmony. And whoever reaches this state becomes a point of reference for everyone. Because calm is contagious. A man at peace also allows those around him to breathe. He doesn't have to give orders. His presence is enough. Epictetus would say, "The wise man does not dominate the world, but the world calms in his presence." This is the ultimate power of the Stoic, not to change others, but to make them change simply by being still. When you reach this point, you are no longer interested in races, contests, or competitions. You no longer have to prove anything to anyone. You've stopped comparing yourself because you've understood that every comparison arises from doubt, and you no longer doubt yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you no longer need approval, you possess your freedom." Peace is freedom. It's the feeling of being at home wherever you are, because your home is within you. It's the awareness that everything that can be lost was never truly yours, and everything that is truly yours can never be lost. Epictetus would say, "No one can take away from you what lives in peace in your mind." Inner peace is the end of all fear, because when you are at peace, you no longer fear abandonment. You no longer fear judgment. You no longer fear loss. You have been through pain and you have understood it. And when you understand pain, it no longer scares you. A woman doesn't desire the man who chases her, but the man who is at peace even without her. Because that kind of man is rare, and rarity creates desire. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What is rare shines even in silence. Peace makes you light. You don't need to speak, explain, or convince. Your presence alone communicates stability, strength, and security." People feel that nothing can move you, that no emotion drags you down, that no disappointment changes you. And then something extraordinary happens. You are no longer the one seeking respect. Respect comes to you, because the world bows before those who need nothing. Epictetus would say, "The peace of the wise man is a kingdom that no one can conquer." And this is the conclusion of the entire Stoic journey, becoming king not of the external world, but of your own inner world. Governing yourself with discipline, watching over your thoughts like an army, choosing wisely what is worth facing and what to let go. This is the supreme power. Not the love you earn, not the success you achieve, but the peace that nothing can steal from you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "He who finds peace within himself has found everything he sought in others." And so, when you reach that point, you are no longer a man who fights for respect. You are a man who is respect. You are no longer a man who seeks balance. You are balance. You are no longer a man who fears loss, because you have understood that what you are inside, no one can ever touch. And it is in that moment, in the absolute silence of your mind, that you understand the deepest truth of all. You never needed to win, to conquer, to hold back. You only needed to find yourself. And when you find yourself, everything else, love, respect, abundance, peace, comes by itself. Because the complete man asks for nothing. And precisely because of this, he obtains everything.